All right, our next presenter is Stan Romanek. All right, that name might ring a bell with everybody because Stan's case is really a big one. And we took a real in-depth look at it all the way back in, I think, 2004. And it's as valid today as the day it was done. 4 full hours on his case with Stan and Deborah Lindemann and Dr. Jack Kasher and Dana Tebow. Major presentation. Why? Because it's a major case. It has everything. It has photo evidence, video evidence, witnesses. And here's the thing. Rock solidly established, I think, 2004. But guys, there's been stuff happening all the way from 2004 until this very day. Get ready for a ride. Please welcome Stan Romanek.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming here. Let me share my story. Those of you in the intelligence community, I hope you're having a good time. Those of you that are off-world visitors, thank you so much for visiting us, and I hope you're having a wonderful time also. I've got a lot to go through, so I'm going to get started because we have little time. I can literally do probably a week presentation if I wanted to. I want to start out, first of all, by putting things into perspective. There's something I'm sure some of you didn't know. First of all, our solar system resides in the Milky Way. That's what we think, right? Our sun is one of about 200 billion suns in the Milky Way. We're located on the outer edge of the outer reaches of a spiral arm called the Orion Arm. Two-thirds the way from the galactic center, or so we thought. Scientists have now determined that the Milky Way is actually not our parent galaxy, and there's a reason I'm telling you this. We're from another galaxy called a Sagittarian dwarf galaxy. The Milky Way actually swallowed it up, and people wanted to know, there was this big debate why the Milky Way looks kind of crooked, and now they're thinking this is why. A little schematic here of where the Sagittarian is and where the Milky Way is and where we are. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because it was speculated that there are about 200 billion stars in our galaxy. They now believe that there are over 400 billion stars with the combined galaxies. NASA researchers that I've talked to are saying that there are over 300 billion galaxies in the universe that they can detect with the Hubble Space Telescope. Honestly, to think we're the only ones would be absolutely the most ludicrous thing in the world. That being said, let's get started. June 6, 1968, my father served in the Air Force. This is probably when my experiences started, to be honest with you. I was 5 years old at the time. My dad was stationed in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And he worked between Grand Forks and Minot, North Dakota. He worked at the missile silos. Well, in 1968, they had an incident where a UFO dropped down on one of the missile silos and actually armed one of the missiles. Now, this is public record. You can get this information on the internet. You can find out about this yourself. But what they didn't tell you is they tracked the UFO to a small town called Northwood, North Dakota, where it hovered over the water tower there in our small town. Now, my brother remembers seeing my dad with a small detail surround this water tower, and the UFO eventually went away. This is supposed to be an actual photograph of that particular UFO. I don't know. This was sent to me. I don't know if this is real or not, but it's supposed to be. And I remember after that incident, we started getting bottled water. Yeah, bizarre, huh? February 22nd, 2010, this is just recently, I got a call from the son of a general. This general, I promised him I wouldn't mention his name, but this general was in charge of Minot, North Dakota when my dad was stationed there. He wanted to tell me about some other stuff that happened in the 60s. He wanted to tell me that they had an incident where they tracked a UFO in 1966 down to one of the missile silos, and it kind of flew over some B-52s. Now, these are supposed documents I just got sent by this general. He's really ill. His son told me that he's not doing well, and he wanted to get this information out that he's been holding on to for quite some time. So you guys are the first to see it. I wished I had time to let you guys read it, but I don't. I'm just showing you that I have it. This is one of the witness reports. The MPs actually took a picture. This picture is first time ever seen by the public. And there's the picture of the UFO over Minot Air Force Base in 1967. So 66, 67, 68, they had all this UFO stuff. And this is about when I had my first experience. And this is pretty important because this gets weird. This woman came up to me when I was 5 years old. I was playing with my pedal car. It was a summer day. And I remember she was very strange looking. Even as a 5-year-old child, I thought she was very pretty, except her eyes were different, very slanted, almond-shaped, baby blue eyes. In fact, they weren't even baby blue. They were almost day-glow blue. And I remember she patted me on the head and told me that I was special and I had something to do when I got older. She opened her hand. When she opened her hand, I remember she had 3 fingers. The marble started to glow. It was a glowing marble. And to me, it looked like a glowing version of the Earth. And it started levitating about a 1/4 inch off her hand. Well, this, I talked to Paula Harris. Paula Harris is a good friend of ours, and she was talking to me about Maurizio Cavallo in Italy. Took some Polaroids of somebody he calls the Clarion people. Well, this reminded me of this strange woman that I saw. I mean, it looks almost exactly, except, she wasn't blurry when I saw her. But the same kind of weird eyes, the skinny features. And this is what I remember. This same woman followed me throughout my childhood. We moved from North Dakota. I was born in Denver, moved to North Dakota when I was really young, then moved back to Denver. And in between there, my dad was stationed for a little while in Cheyenne, and she was there the whole time. The last time I saw her, I was up at a playground. I was about 10 years old, waiting for the swimming pool to open at the local park. She came up to me, and she started talking, and I was swinging on swings, not paying attention. And I looked up, and she said, "You're one of us. We're you." And I looked at her. Why would this, being 10 years old, that's really unusual. But what got me was the fact that her mouth was not moving when she told me this. Now, as a kid, you kind of don't put 2 and 2 together. You kind of blow it off. Until December of 2000, I had my first real sighting. I didn't believe in this stuff. I thought anybody that believed in this stuff was crazy. I wanted them to stay away from me. But I met somebody online. She lived in Nebraska. I lived in Colorado. And, I wanted her to come visit me. We became really good friends. We were kind of dating this long-distance relationship. And I'm thinking, what's the best way to do that? Well, I decided to go up to what is known as Red Rocks Amphitheater, a very well-known spot up in the foothills of Colorado. Beautiful. They have concerts there. And I was going to videotape the surrounding area. This was about December 27th, beautiful winter day, snow on the ground, perfect setting. And I was going to mail this videotape to her, and I was going to, send her some flowers or something. I never made it to Red Rocks. onto the side of the road. There were about 30 cars pulled off to the side of the road. And if you look, you can see the power lines. Behind the power lines, you see what's known as Dinosaur Ridge, and behind that is Red Rocks. Above the power lines, I'd say probably a good anywhere from 60 to 200 feet. Kind of hard to judge distance when you're afraid. There was an object, and when I saw this object, all these people were looking south, and I looked to see what they were looking at, and this object was hovering above the power lines. I'm thinking, man, that is the weirdest hot air balloon I had ever seen in my life. Well, it turned out not to be a hot air balloon at all. It turned out to be a UFO. In fact, when I got close to it with my van, it started pacing my van. I remembered, even though I was scared, I got a little brave because, there were people around. I was going to try to outrun it, but, yeah, good luck there. I pulled off to the side of the road, and I got my camcorder out, and I started videotaping this object. Well, the object reorientated itself and literally shot to about 1,000 foot in a blink of an eye. Now, growing up in the Air Force, I remember as a child the jet fighters would fly over us early morning, and they'd create these sonic booms everywhere. Well, that's what this object did. It made no sound until it popped away, and it made this sonic explosion that I could feel in my shirt. There were a bunch of people there. We all watched this object. It morphed, it changed shape, it did all these weird, bizarre things, and eventually corkscrewed away. I remember standing there with one of the guys, and about 10 minutes later, two F-16s flew the same direction as this object corkscrewed away to. This is what I thought I saw. I remember, as I got close to this object, looking in between these spheres, and these spheres were rotating counterclockwise under this bigger object. Was the blackest black I'd ever seen in my life. In fact, even today, I've never seen anything that black. It looked like if I got close, I could have thrown a rock into infinity. Now, even more amazing is, well, the local news did a report. Hopefully you can hear the sound.
A UFO sighting near Red Rocks Sunday right after the
sound.
X-Files on Fox 31 News. A Lakewood man seeing something unusual in the sky, grabs his video camera.
I noticed something kind of just right above the power lines.
A UFO, an expert says.
This is nothing like any other UFO video I've seen.
Judge for yourself, Sunday on Fox 31 News at 9 o'clock.
I became the UFO guy. I mean, I got to know these people personally because I started having so many experiences. Shortly after the news report aired, I was contacted by someone that was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. Well, I didn't know this, but somebody at Nellis had tracked this same object. It was over one of the test ranges. And it's the same object that was hovering above the power lines. And they have these cameras that are ground-based, and they follow the flight of these fighter planes as they're doing dogfights to track what they're doing. Well, this UFO came into their airspace, and they captured this thing. Now, that would have been fine with me. I didn't really believe in this stuff. I got it on video, and I was, I still wasn't sure. I didn't know what to think. Could it be some military experiment? I wasn't sure. I had some business in Pennsylvania. This was September 1st, 2001. I decided to pick up my girlfriend, well, she's my wife now, Lisa, and we went to Pennsylvania with my best friend. On the way back, we were followed. Now, I'm not the first one to spot this. My wife did. I don't know if you can see that little white dot, but we were followed through 2.5 states, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, by a large disc. Every time we pulled over to try to get video of this thing, the darn thing would pop into a cloud, and we were playing this cat and mouse game through those states, and I was getting concerned. And, we were kind of comical. We were driving 80 miles an hour down I-80 with our heads sticking out in a camera going like this, and people were looking at us. But that's the only way we could actually get any video of this thing. And it only got weirder and weirder and weirder. September 20th, 2001, I was managing a store, and I was about to close the store for the evening. It was time to go home, and I just let my last customers out. Before I could lock the doors, they came running back in. They said, "There's something above your work, there's something above your work." Well, the first thing I thought was, somebody's crawled on the roof and they're playing some kind of game, who knows. I went outside to look above the roof, and they pointed up toward the sky, and I see this sphere, this big red blinking sphere, approximately 40 foot in diameter. Must have been anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 feet up. And it was just staying there. And I'm looking at this object. Eventually, it slowly floats away, and I've already seen, 2 UFOs now. I'm getting a little paranoid. Well, I go home. My friend and my sister were waiting for me. We lived in an upstairs apartment. I run upstairs, get my camera. I said, come outside, because this thing followed me from my work, and it was just right above the apartment complex, so now I'm really paranoid. Well, I go up there, I get my camera, and by this time it's off by some cloud, and you can barely see it. I get some footage of it, but we talk about it. I don't even think we were supposed to go to dinner. I don't think we ever even made it to dinner. But my friend leaves, goes home about 11 o'clock. I go to bed. My sister goes to bed. I was woken up 2 o'clock in the morning by a knock at the door. Now, this drives me crazy. I don't know why they keep using this. It's just got so many holes. The debunkers, all the TV shows will tell you if you have an abduction experience, it's sleep paralysis. Come on, They don't explain how Betty and Barney Hill could have been taken out of their cars. They don't explain how Travis Walton could have been taken up at Snowflake, Arizona. My first abduction, I was fully awake when this happened. There was no sleep paralysis. I was not hallucinating. I got up to answer the door. My sister had already answered the door. She was standing there literally with this dumbfounded look on her face, staring at the ceiling like she was still asleep. While there were 3 people outside, and I thought they were teenagers or something. I wasn't exactly sure because they were smaller. And I got close, and I'm looking at them. It's like, why are they wearing costumes? And those are the most bizarre masks I had ever seen in my life. Well, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, they're going to rob us. They're here to rob us. I'm yelling at my sister, don't let them in. They're going to rob us. Don't let them in. And, it's interesting because these are not your typical ETs that, people talk about. They aren't the little gray guys. There was a female and 2 males, and you could tell she was a female. She had female parts, which is unusual too. They also didn't have normal extraterrestrial eyes. They didn't have the black eyes. Their eyes were massive, massively huge, almond-shaped, wrap-around, day-glow blue, baby blue. I can't describe the color eyes. Well, the female pushed my sister aside like she was unconscious, came in, grabbed my wrist, and unless this happens to you, this is really hard to explain. A thought popped into my head. It's going to be okay. You're fine. We're not going to hurt you. The thought, no, it wasn't mine, and it's not going to be okay. I flipped out, or I tried to flip out. She grabbed my wrist, and she started leading me to the balcony. Well, somehow I snapped out of whatever trance I was in, and there was a male on either side of me, and I grabbed one of the males, and I was going to throw him off the balcony. Well, guess what? It didn't work. I felt a tap on the back of my head, and that's the last thing I remember other than waking up. I can't tell you if it was a craft, I can't tell you if it was a room in a basement, but it was like someplace I'd never seen before. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get the book to find out. I don't have time to tell you, I'm sorry. This is what I thought the female looked like, although, honestly, I can try to draw this or have somebody draw this every which way, and I still can't get it quite right. Now, because I didn't believe in this, it's not that I didn't remember, because I remembered everything. My brain couldn't handle it, so I convinced myself this was a dream. I got up in the morning, 8 o'clock the next morning after my experience, thinking, man, this is the weirdest dream I ever had in my life. Got up to make some breakfast for myself, and my sister goes, what the heck happened to your back? I wasn't wearing a shirt, I was just wearing shorts. And I felt around on my back, and I didn't feel any pain, but I felt these holes in my back, and it felt kind of wet. And And I'm looking, it's like, what the heck? And when I looked down, I noticed that I had hair missing on my wrist. And I had these open wounds on my wrist. Well, I really started to flip out. I was having a really hard time with this. Got a hold of my friend. My friend said, look, let's get you hooked up to your local UFO organization and maybe they can help you and figure this out. Well, I got involved with the local UFO organization. They started documenting everything. One of the things we noticed that these wounds that were open wounds actually healed in less than 48 hours. Probably more like maybe 40 hours. To nothing but these tiny little scars. One of the researchers involved with my case now said, look, if you've been abducted, a lot of times if you have scoop marks, open wounds, they'll fluoresce under black light. And it wasn't very reassuring because cattle mutilations do the same thing. Well, they got a black light and they, first we put it on a scar that I had on my leg. Didn't do anything, but as soon as we got close to those wounds that I had on my back or had on my wrist, they lit up like a Christmas tree. I tried everything. I tried a Brillo pad, I tried gasoline. That stayed under my skin for about 90 days before it finally went away. September 22nd, 2001, I needed to get away. Some friends got together and they were having like an astronomy party. They were looking at, one of our friends got this really big telescope he just got and he wanted to go try it out. I just gotten off work. This is September 22nd, 2001. And I got off work kind of late, and I was headed up to this park called Daniels Park. It's south of Denver. It's a nice area to go for night watching because you can see, it's high enough that you can see everything around it, and it's far enough away from Denver that you can still see the pretty lights, but it's dark that you can see the stars. I drove up Daniels Park fairly late. I was headed up the dirt road toward the park. All of a sudden I see this red flashing light. The whole area was being lit up by this red flashing light. First thing I thought was, I have my blinker on. Shut my blinker on, the flashing kept happening. But it was real fast. And it lit up, and it reminded me of the same flashing that I saw on the UFO above my work, just, a day or so earlier. I looked out the window, and I see this UFO almost right above me, so close I probably could have thrown a rock at it. Scared me to the point where I thought I was going to pass out. I hit the gas. I must have been doing about 100 miles an hour up that 20-mile-an-hour dirt road, just trying to get away from this thing. I had my camcorder with me. I took it with me. My friend said, you might as well start taking this with you, and it's a good thing I did. By the time I got up to the top, my friends were right there. I decided to pull over, try to videotape this thing. This thing stopped dead and suddenly shot west, slowly floating over everybody at this astronomy party. It's interesting because one of the people in this next little video I'm going to show you, he is a physicist, and he also designs software. And we talked about the UFO stuff before this party. He said, if I were to ever see a UFO and if it were to land, I'd be the first to go up and touch it and try to say hi. Honestly, he was the first to go running off and hiding under a picnic table. There were a lot of witnesses.
I saw a spherical,
Hold on, guys.
Sorry. Defocused, probably plasma-like object, and flew from the eastern sky to the western sky in a straight line. It was strobing.
At first you can't believe it. And then you go, wow. And it was like it was showing off for us. It was round, light red. Laser type thing. It was flashing. It's hard to explain. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't anything I've seen before.
Today's the 22nd, I believe. of September 2001. We're in Daniels Park, south of Denver, Colorado. And I walked over to a car. Some folks were parked over there for about 45 minutes with their parking lights on. And we asked them if they had seen it too. And they said, yes, they did. That the object was probably 100 feet or so above the outhouse that's here at the end of the parking lot. But the interesting thing in their describing it was that they said, when Stan walked up, "Are you the guy who was driving the van?" And he said, "Yes, I was." And so they seemed to indicate that it had followed Stan on his way here.
Now, I'm showing you this stuff because one of the things that makes my case different, according to the researchers, is that most of the stuff that happens, especially lately, only seems to happen when there's a lot of people around. And I'm putting the kind of boring stuff in the beginning of this because it gets better and better and better. September 30th, 2001, just got off work again. I was in the middle of Lakewood, Colorado, during rush hour, busy intersection. A UFO came down, and I didn't know it was a UFO, and I was just about to come up to an intersection. And I see this beam of light hit the ground next to me. It would be off to my left. And, you know, because it's a big city, there's police helicopters, and like any polite citizen, you roll down your window and wave at the police helicopter that's beaming you. Well, I didn't hear any helicopter sounds. And I'm sitting there going, what? And I noticed the guy that was tailgating me had stopped in the middle of the street, got out of his car, and was looking above my vehicle. And I'm looking, huh? And as I go through the intersection, you could see people going. I look up, and there's the same damn red blinking UFO just right above my vehicle. It had just beamed my van. Well, by this point, I was a little past being scared. I was kind of PO'd. This object took off, and I hit the gas. I was going to chase this thing in a van, yeah, whatever. But, you know, I tried. And this object slowly, it stopped and hovered above this cottonwood tree in a park called the Old Stonehouse Park. It slowly flew southeast. Well, there were tons of people there. Tons of people there. People had video cameras. They had digital cameras. They were having a party. You could hear sirens going off. People had to have called this in. These are the people. Eventually, the news did a piece on this, and you can see witness reports. This is an interesting witness report. This guy was talking about seeing this object, and he said he was so scared he couldn't get it in reverse. And when he saw this object beam my van, the light, whatever kind of light it was, actually penetrated the metal and hit the ground below. I don't remember that. I just remember being, you know, beamed. These are some of the witness report drawings. That's what I thought. I thought it looked like a big soccer ball with a green thing at the bottom. Local news did a report on it. I think this is rather amazing because you get to see the other witness videos too.
UFOs over Lakewood.
Whoa!
Tonight, right after the series finale of The X-Files on Fox 31 News, many saw it.
You guys saw it too?
Some with cameras rolling.
There it is.
See the amazing video
I want to find out what this is.
and judge for yourself. Tonight on Fox 31 News at 9 o'clock.
Thanks for staying with us on this Sunday night in the Rockies. I'm Ron Zapolo.
And I'm Phil Keating. Dozens of people saw it, too, caught it on videotape, but no one's sure exactly what it is. Another unidentified flying object is seen hovering over Lakewood. This Fox 31's Kim Posey tells us
like how they say
the witnesses are looking for answers.
Whoa! There it is, there it is, there it is, there it is.
You can hear the excitement and anxiety in Stan Romanek's voice as he videotapes this unidentified flying object.
Whoa!
An object he says he noticed after it spotlighted his car.
I looked out my window and there's this big red blinking orb, probably about maybe 60 feet above my car.
Stan says he followed the object with video camera in hand. That was September 30th last year at the Old Stonehouse Park in Lakewood.
What the hell is that thing?
A park filled with people, the curious and the concerned.
You guys saw it too?
Yes, we did. We all saw it.
Wow.
This group was having a birthday party in the park.
Her daughter's yelling, aliens, aliens, and we thought the kids were just playing, and then we looked up and I couldn't believe it.
Geez, I'm shaking like a leaf. Man, this thing was right in front of my car. I was chasing it down the road.
This is what they couldn't believe. This is a second videotape. A tape a woman at the party shot. Same object, same question.
Do you think it's an alien?
I don't know.
Numerous people reported seeing the object to the National UFO Reporting Center. Now the Mutual UFO Network is investigating.
For me, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 13.
George Zeiler is the deputy director of MUFON International, and he's heading up the investigation. He sent Stan's tape to several experts for analysis.
It's not an airplane. It's not a helicopter. It's not a balloon.
So what is it? George isn't sure, but he's got some ideas.
My opinion is that these cannot be from this planet. I would like to know where they're from. What are they doing here? Why are we of such interest to them?
We or Stan? George wonders if he could be a target.
Whoa!
Stan saw similar objects 3 times that month, and weird things were happening to him.
Birds flying into his car. He has this electromagnetic personality where he walks up to a car and all of a sudden the windshield wipers, the lights come on, and the windshield wipers come on.
Plus, Stan found fluorescent markings on his body.
Whatever it is, it's not shy. It seems to want to be recognized. If it's, targeting me, I'm not anybody special. I have no idea why. February 11th, 2006. A witness came forward with some 35 millimeter pictures. She found our address in the phone book, or actually online. I guess her grandfather lived in the area, took some pictures of something he saw beaming something out in the road. And these are 35 millimeter pictures he took of this object beaming my van. And I put it in a little motion thing so you can kind of get an idea of what this object looks like in motion. Very bizarre. It almost looks like liquid of some kind, really unusual. June 25th, 2002. I couldn't deal with this. I really couldn't deal with this. When you were if you're a big skeptic like I was, it's kind of hard for you to accept having your paradigm shifted in this way. The researchers involved with me said, we're going to try to get you some help once you go for regression. Well, I don't even believe in regression. What's that? I decided to do it anyhow. This rocked my world probably more than seeing the UFO, honestly. I remembered from my previous experience that I had all these symbols in my head. Now, what's really important to understand is I'm severely dyslexic. I have, if I'm lucky, a 4th grade math level. I'm embarrassed to say that I have to ask my kids how to spell, which is really amazing because I have a best-selling book, but I don't know how to spell worth a hell of beans and I can't do math. Well, the researcher, when she was doing her regression, said, can you remember any of these symbols? I said, yes, I can write them down. She gave me a pad of paper, my eyes closed. I'm sitting there writing these things down. I did it in like 20 seconds. That's my first equation that I wrote. What's interesting about this, the top equation ended up being, according to the researchers, and they had to send this to a University of Nebraska physicist to get this checked out, ended up being element 115. What's interesting is they didn't have element 115 when this was written. Also, what's in here, I remember they showed me the planet alignment down there. That's where they're from, which ended up being somewhere in Orion's belt. Then there's our solar system, which has 10 dots in a sun as opposed to 9 dots in a sun. And then formula for Drake's equation, times 100. I don't know why I wrote that, but I had put times 100 because that's what I remembered. Interestingly enough, 2 years later, somebody sent me a clip that some Russians, I think they're Russians and German physicists actually, or chemists actually invented element 115 2 years prior, 2 years after I wrote this. I had the equation for it, or the elemental structure for it, written down out of nowhere. They didn't have this element yet. They didn't even have the equation for it yet. I also remember when I was being abducted that something important was going to happen. And every time during this abduction, I'd say, when's this going to happen? All they do is flash this in my head, these dots. 1, 10, 6, 4, cheese, 9, 8. What the heck's with the cheese and what are the dots? I didn't know what it was. Well, somebody looked at it, an astronomer looked at it and said, hey, that's an alignment of planets. Cheese stands for the moon. It's like, huh? What? Well, what's interesting, let me go back, come on, is the alignment actually is a date for September 21st, 2012. I do not believe in the doomsday scenario, I'm sorry. One guy went to look at a Mayan calendar and he said, oh, the Mayans have the end of the world. You talk to the Mayan elders that are alive now and they'll say, no, he got it wrong. It's a calendar. If anything, it's going to be a shift. It doesn't say anything about doomsday. One guy started that. That's not the case. I can guarantee you it's not the end of the world. 100% guarantee you. July 19th, 2002, I was on Entertainment Tonight. This is cool because they had NASA look at that UFO.
Plus, is this footage of a UFO? The man behind the alien autopsy has new footage 2 TV networks are interested in. Next, in the Entertainment Tonight cover story.
From the humans who brought you the alien autopsy comes mysterious new video that could be a UFO. Our Leonard Maltin reports on Hollywood's obsession with extraterrestrials and our Entertainment Tonight cover story.
I want you to understand this is probably the quintessential alien abduction / UFO case ever on record.
Wow, that thing's weird. We're told this mysterious light in the sky was shot in Colorado last September.
NASA's people that I'm talking to right now is saying either it's a secret military craft, surveillance of some kind, or it might be for the first time that word that we rarely use, extraterrestrial.
Did you see it too?
Oh, it was incredible.
Hollywood is cashing in on aliens this summer with Will Smith and a host of ETs in Men in Black 2. And opening in August, it's Mel Gibson in Signs, which explores the possible supernatural origins of these crop circles.
I have a basic belief in supernature, in a nature that exceeds and is higher than our own.
July 27th, 2002. Beautiful girlfriend that I was dating, we finally got married. She's my beautiful wife now. Lisa, where are you? Lisa, stand up. I got to tell you, without this woman, I would be nobody. Really, she supported me, she keeps me grounded, and she's helped me through all this stuff that I've gone through. Moved to Nebraska because I wanted to get away from this scary stuff. Yeah. It followed me in the middle of a busy city. Why would I think that I should have thought about this, really. Honestly, I was happy to move in with my beautiful wife, but there's no way I could get away from this because we moved to a very small town in Nebraska. Woke up, noticed that our alarm clock was upside down. Didn't think anything of it. Got up and there were pins all over the floor. Also found another equation. Apparently I started writing equations in my sleep. And they get more complex and more complex. Some of them are known. Some of them, they're still, even to this day, some of the top scientists or physicists are going, this is amazing. What is this? We don't understand this. And they're slowly piecing it together. November 17, 2002, I was abducted again. This time I was left outside. Freezing weather, buck naked. All the slide bolts were locked from the inside. I had more like scrape marks on my back. They thought it was probably some kind of skin grafts. And I had this horrible pain in my side. It ended up being a broken rib. Now, I also had a lump in this hip right here. Now, this is important. Remember that lump. my wife, and it took a good half hour to wake my wife up. It's like they turn everything off when they take you. I don't know how they do it, but I was knocking at the doors, knocking at the windows. I didn't want somebody to see some freak out in the middle of the night, 20-degree weather, buck naked, knocking at windows. She eventually let me in, and I was really sick to my stomach. I had this horrible taste in my mouth. I was going to throw up, and I put my hand in my mouth, and I realized that I was holding something. And I opened my hand, I dropped the substance, and it kind of floated down onto the countertop. They had the substance analyzed, and it ended up being something called elemental bismuth. Now, I found out later that this is used for electromagnetic experiments. High voltage power lines and, power companies use this because it's really good for non-conduction of heat, non-conduction of electricity. It's kind of used for a barrier. What am I doing with it in the wilds of Nebraska, holding it after an abduction experience? Even more bizarre, the next morning my wife wakes up and there's this weird kind of burned circle in the yard. Interesting thing about this circle is they found microscopic bits of meteorite dust in this circle. They don't know where it came from. They use an EMF meter, the EMF meter would go crazy. They use a compass, the compass would go crazy. January 5th, 2003, gets even weirder. I'd already written equations. Again, I refused to believe this stuff. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this is going on. I had a dream my stepson was taken. This is when it got kind of serious for me. We were told that it wouldn't affect my stepkids, but apparently it did. I got up, middle of the night, my wife woke up, she goes, you're not going to feel good about things. Why don't you go check on him? And I did. He was about 8 years old at the time. And I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, so I went back to bed. Next morning, I was eating a donut or something. My wife was smoking, and we were drinking coffee, and we were sitting on the back deck, and I looked up, and on our window, in lipstick, was this weird symbol in this little formula. It's like, oh no, my stepson. First thing we did was we got up to check on my stepson. Well, see this weird symbol? Well, this weird symbol was above my stepson's bed. We turned around, and in his handwriting, we see this writing in marker on the wall. It's a formula my stepson drew after he had an experience. It's his handwriting at 8 years old. May 31st, 2003, we were having so much stuff happen. And let me tell you, when you're a true abductee, you have something called high strangeness begin to happen to you. Anything and everything paranormal you can imagine. Our house was the most haunted house. Everything, flashes of lights, all kinds of things. Our furniture would disappear, reappear. Our remote controls would disappear, reappear. The scientists said, hey, look, we're going to hook up surveillance cameras. We got to come up there. We got to buy, the surveillance stuff. In the meantime, why don't you just get something kind of small and hook it up and see what happens? Well, we did. We got a motion-activated camera we hooked to our computer, and we captured this. The debunkers will say, oh, that's a laser light. Okay, really? Okay, I want you to look at this. Look where the doorway is. And you can see that the object is actually a three-dimensional object. It stops, changes colors, and in the original video, you can see the light reflecting off the TV as its object passes by the TV. And it goes down to where we're sleeping, which is really creepy. July 17th, 2003. I don't know. How many people have seen the alien in the window video? That's all over. Okay, raise your hand. This got me on the map. I thought we had a peeping Tom. The reason I showed this video to begin with was there's something that's being started in Denver called the Denver ET Initiative. It's a ground roots effort to try to get the government to admit that ETs are real and to try to do something about it at the ground roots level. I let these people use this video for the press conference to try to get things rolling, and let me tell you, they went nuts. I was on Larry King. I've been on just, I don't know how many TV shows, how many radio shows over this video. How this video got started was, I thought we had a peeping Tom. I got up in the middle of well, it was late evening, let's say. I was watching TV, I got up and I see movement out of one of the windows. It's like, who's looking in our window? I ran outside, nobody was there. Next day it happened again. This was going on for about a good 2-3 months. I called the police, I let all the neighbors know. We set up little sticks and twigs underneath the windows so if he stepped on them we could hear him, and I had a bat by the door. I have twin stepdaughters, beautiful stepdaughters. They're 21 now. They were young teenagers at the time. I thought this was some kind of pervert. Well, one of the researchers involved in my case said, hey, you got a camera. Next time you see movement outside of the window, why don't you set it up and walk away? I did. It says no video, but that's okay. It's already all over the internet. It doesn't matter. I didn't go to bed, though. I went to the bathroom, sat at the edge of the bathtub reading a magazine. I saw 2 flashes of light. After the second flash of light, I looked out, and I see this little figure pop down. It's like, yes, I got him. This is the video that I got. When I looked outside the window, I see this thing running away, and let me tell you, my wife thinks this is the funniest video ever, the way I react, because I jump around like a little girl, but I want you to notice at the bottom of this video. Okay. Bottom of the window. Just kind of keep it rolling there. There's a weird little flash. Nobody knows what that is. Pause. For some reason I'm prancing around. I don't know why I did that. All right. I have it on night shot, so it's infrared. And you'll see 2 flashes of light. And I'll pause it on the flashes. There's the first flash. It's kind of bright. The second flash is amazing. They said it was as bright as the sun right outside my window. There's no sound, though. That's what's amazing. Now look at the bottom of the window, and I want you to notice the infrared reflecting off its retinas. He blinks, he moves its mouth, he squints, he, she, whatever it is. See him? We named him Boo. Could it be a guy in a mask? I don't think so. Could be, but I saw this thing run away with my own eyes. The debunkers will say, well, they come thousands of light years. Why are they looking in your window? How the heck should I know why they're looking in my window? I don't know. But it happens a lot. You talk to abductees, and they'll tell you they have things looking in their window all the time. This is a real phenomenon. He pops up again, pops down. God, I think I saw the little bastard. They say, I saw the little bastard. I see this run away, and it looks back at me. Oh, what is that? Yeah. Scared the living bejesus out of me, I gotta tell you. Because its eyes were not normal. I thought it was a little kid, and then it looked back. It's like it sensed that I was there. It looked back at me. It's like, oh my God. These are the stills. We got better, we got some good stills of it. September 5th, 2003, a researcher and documentary filmmaker installed surveillance cameras. They videotaped me being abducted, not directly, but they videotaped a light exploding on the side of the house. By where the surveillance camera was on the side of the house, the grass looked like it started like steaming or something, and these weird little bubbles started coming down, and suddenly the camera got disrupted and turned off. There was a strange beeping sound that you could hear, and what sounded like off in the distance like my stepson going, Mom, Mom. They analyzed this and found that it wasn't my stepson, it was some mechanical device that they used. They think they used this voice to wake me up and to get me to go outside looking for my stepson so they could take me. But here's a little bit of information about it. The sound. You hear that? And there, you'll hear a beeping sound. Beeping is important. Hear the beeping sound at the end? Well, that audio and the video were all sent off to, and we do this purposely. Any of the stuff that I have, I don't send it to people that are already involved in the UFO field because, you know, they're already jaded. We want, you know, people that don't know what this is. We don't tell them what it is, and they do their research. It's like, what is this stuff? This is amazing. So we have people other than UFO researchers do this.
I had 6 previous samples of sounds from UFOs. 2 of these samples were provided by policemen. I had 4 other sources from various people that I've accumulated over 10 years from 2 different countries that all 6 of these frequencies matched. So then I took Stan's sample and I did an analysis of that and compared that to the 6 previous samples I have, and all 7 samples match the same frequency.
What he's saying is he had videos in audio from other UFOs people had seen all over the world, and they had that same beeping sound that I had, and it matched exactly. So that's just more evidence. What's more amazing, the next morning after my abduction experience, I got up, wanted to find out why my video camera no longer worked, and I found this. You can see, if you look, you can see a flat spot at the top because the light, whatever it was over the house, and it hit the gutter there, and it literally cleaned or got rid of all the mold and dirt and dust and everything all the way through the molecular structure of the siding. And it also melted and warped the siding like some kind of bizarre heat. Well, that was fine, you know. I was about to go get samples of this and sent it off to the researchers and stuff. Woke up the next morning because there was pounding outside. Now, we were renting this duplex, and I got up, and there were people outside replacing the siding. It's like, okay, something weird's going on here. They wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't look me in the eye. I decided to get my camera. They told me they were there. The landlord wanted them to replace all the siding, and they were there to replace the siding. They took my camera down. They had it nicely set on the ground, which kind of upset me because that was a real expensive surveillance camera. And here's me talking to them.
Suddenly, people showed up to do sighting of the house. They said they're from the landlord. I can't get a hold of my landlord to verify it, but in any case, I think it's rather unusual that suddenly they come do the sighting. So I'm going to videotape them doing the sighting and try to get them to tell me what day it is.
I had the camera hidden, and I got them to tell me what date it was. So this was the day after the experience. And right in between those windows, you see him right where he is, right above him is where the camera was. It says Bob sighting from Grand Island, Nebraska. That's what it said on the
cool. Hey, what's today's date? 8th of October?
Never look at me, not once. I try to get in front of them to make them look at me, and they turn away. Kept his head down. Well, all of a sudden, I went in, I grabbed a piece of siding. I asked them if I could take some of the siding because they had siding laying all over the ground. They said, absolutely not. You can't take one piece because we have to prove to your landlord that we did all the siding. It's like, okay, I knew something was up there. While they weren't looking, I grabbed one of the most important pieces where the camera was, took it off. There's nothing he was going to do about it. Anyhow, there's nothing he could do about it. He didn't see me. Called the landlord. The landlord was on vacation. About an hour later, I heard a shop vac going. I looked out the window. They were shop vacuuming my yard. What in the world? They got in their truck, drove off, waited for them to come back because the only place they replaced the siding is where I had the UFO beam my house. That's the only sighting they ever replaced. I finally got a hold of my landlord. He said, I didn't have anybody replace your sighting. We called that number that I wrote down on the side of the truck. No such thing, no Bob sighting anywhere. Scientists analyzed the sighting.
There was a discolored area due to heat, and I don't know what caused that.
October 20th, 2003, had a strange dream about squares. Just write stuff down. February 13th, 2004. Yeah. Oh my God, this is really important. Funniest thing, I mean, how funny can it get? You have to make fun of this or else you'll go crazy. I had a dream that my wife was being messed with. Woke up because I dreamt there were little grays shoving something down her throat while she was laying in bed. She woke up coughing. That woke me up 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't move. I was literally walking like this. It's like, what in the world? Turn on the light, and I was in this woman's one-piece nightgown. It's like, what the heck? My wife laughed for hours and hours and hours. She goes, that's not mine. I go, what is this? She goes, tell me this is yours. It was dark. She goes, I can't see anything. Turn on the light. I turn on the light. She's laughing hysterically. It's not my stepdaughter's. It's not my wife. I felt a wet spot on the back of this nightgown. It was disgusting, gooey, wet spot. I didn't want it to touch my body, so we're sitting there holding it, trying to peel this thing off me. Sent it off to the researchers, to the scientists. It ended up being a blood plasma expander in a protein that they can't identify even to this day. And something that resembles a chemical that's used for in vitro fertilization. It's a medium that they suspend the egg when they introduce the sperm. It's called, if I can get this right, polyvinyl propylalidone. Woohoo, I said it right. Now, what is it doing on this nightgown? Okay, this gets creepier. Luckily, there's going to be a motion picture made about my story, and we're going to get funding to get this checked out for sure. But the same scientist that analyzed the Betty Hill dress analyzed this nightgown. We were contacted by Betty Hill's niece during one of these conferences, and she goes, you know, I want to talk to you about this nightgown. I heard you had a nightgown. I said, yes. She goes, well, Betty Hill died in 2004. 2003, she had an experience, one of her last experiences, and it pissed her off because her favorite nightgown went missing. Yeah. I said, okay, well, can you describe this nightgown? She said, yes, it was a plaid nightgown with a Disney character on it. Gets even weirder. Swear to God, only happened to me. My friend, for a bachelor party, got me a shirt. He had it made specially. It says, I've been abducted by aliens, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. You can't tell me those guys don't have some kind of, you know, I don't know. They laugh about the stuff they do to me. They have to. But the shirt, I went to bed with that shirt, and it ended up missing. What's interesting is when Betty Hill's niece went over, they found this shirt that says, I've been abducted by aliens, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Unfortunately, Betty Hill thought she got it from one of these conferences. Supposedly, she has a picture of it. She took, when Betty Hill died, unfortunately, she took everything to the Goodwill, and we have no way of doing that. But I still have the nightgown, and if the DNA matches, I'm telling you, this is really big. Now, also, remember that lump in my hip? There's now 3 puncture marks around that lump in my hip. It's very important. We were having so much stuff happen. We were being harassed. We found my phone was being tapped. There were, black SUVs following us. We decided to move out of Nebraska. Didn't really tell anybody. But suddenly a strange woman in that same black SUV pulled up to our mailbox, and she put a letter in there. And it says, good luck on your move to Colorado, and remember we're watching. It's like, how the heck did they know we were? She put $40 in this card. So you intelligence guys out there, way to go. That was really cool. Give us more money. June 11th, 2004, we moved to Colorado Springs. This is really weird. This gets weird. Colorado Springs, I was going to be an Olympic cyclist. I lived in Colorado Springs, training there for a while. Loved the area. Beautiful, beautiful area. But there's a lot of military bases, secret military bases I didn't know about. We were warned by a strange mechanical voice. This voice has been with us ever since my experiences started. At first we thought this voice was somebody playing a joke. Alejandro, who now works for Open Minds, has been one of the lead investigators involved in my case for a long time. He's moved out to Phoenix from Denver, and he can't be around my case too much anymore, but he's a really good friend. He found the same voice on a text-to-speech program, and the name of the voice is Audrey, so we call this voice Audrey. It was fine when it first started leaving messages on our answering machine, but eventually we got to talk to her in person. 2-hour conversations, one-on-one, proves that this isn't just any ordinary text-to-speech. You can't type that fast. And this voice morphs, and this voice will tell you the future, and this voice warns us if something happens. Sometimes it does stuff that just absolutely blows your mind, but this is the first Audrey call we got.
Okay, Lisa, hit the button.
One old message.
Hello, Stan and Lisa. My intention is not to scare or alarm you, but to warn you. It is great that you are back in Colorado, but Colorado Springs was not a good idea. It seems you have moved into their backyard. Now it is easy for them to get to you. I know how stubborn you are, Starseed, but please heed this warning and know that Lisa and the children are at risk also. Now listen, Starseed. You know you are different. Follow your instincts and stay alert. This is too important. Soon it will all be revealed. And Starseed, do not be afraid of what you are.
What the heck is Starseed? I thought that was really bizarre. I know now, but that's what they always call me. August 9th, 2004, my stepdaughter got a new camera, took pictures. Very beautiful pictures of the clouds. I put it on my desktop and noticed something. It's like, what in the world? She had a fit. She goes, this is your baloney. I don't want this camera. You take it back. You know, teenagers, they don't like stuff like that, anything that makes them look uncool. Well, she's got a twin sister. Her sister goes, I want to take pictures of UFOs, so she went out taking pictures. She wasn't going to download them till the next morning. Put the camera by the computer. We found the camera on the floor. It had 2 extra pictures on it. I'm going to let you look at this picture for a while. Do you see the eyes? This is the next picture. Now, do you see the eye, the nostril, and the mouth at the bottom? Yep, we call this one Curious George. It took an accident. We think it accidentally took a picture of itself and dropped the camera. August 13, 2004, I felt something sharp poking out of that strange lump in my hip. Remember that lump in my hip? It's a little sliver. Started poking out. Took it to the doctor. Doctor said, I don't know what it is. Looked at it in an x-ray. We can see it, but it's probably a fatty deposit. When it was taken out, it had fuzz all over it. And the fuzz, once it hit there, it looked like, white mold fuzz. I don't know how else to explain it. But once it hit there, it started melting, started liquefying. Cleaned it up, put it in a test tube, took it home, called the researchers. They said, oh my God, you have an implant. It's like, huh? Well, take all kinds of pictures of it, videotape it under different lighting conditions, and then hide it. Well, we did. We videotaped it, took pictures of it under regular light, under black light. Interesting thing, under black light, the darn thing turned orange. We shut off the black light, the damn thing still glowed orange. My wife was in charge of hiding it. I didn't know where she hid it. I went to bed. We went to bed that evening, and I hear this high-pitched squeal coming out of this the radio next to my bed. I woke up the next morning, told my wife about it. She goes, oh, no, the implant. She hid the implant in the test tube in the back of the battery compartment. We took the battery compartment, opened the battery compartment, and we found that the implant in the bottom of the test tube were blown to bits. This is how small those pieces are. This is really kind of cool, actually. This was sent to Cal Berkeley. When we sent it in a sterile jar. By the time it got to Cal Berkeley, it had made a teaspoon of its own amino acid, something that they're still trying to identify. It was blown apart, they figured out, by high-frequency sound. Remember those little hairs I told you about? There's evidence of those little hairs. Even more amazing, these tiny, tiny, almost virus-sized microscopic computer chips, they think. Tiny microscopic gears in this little... They determined that it is some kind of biological nanotechnology that we don't have, and it totally flipped them out. December 20th, 2004, it got real for me. And this is probably why Audrey called. We were getting broken into all the time. We had surveillance cameras. Our surveillance was being cut. There were police helicopters following us everywhere we went. I worked pretty close to home. I rode my bike. Didn't really need to drive my car. I had 4 guys in a black unmarked SUV pull up, started saying something to me, but because we were behind other cars stopped at a stoplight, I just ignored them. I thought they were drunk soldiers. Well, it turns out they knew exactly where I parked my bike. They had to have cased the area because I parked my bike behind my work. They cut me off and they said, you need to keep your mouth shut. I said, I didn't say anything to you. They said, you know what we're talking about. And I could hear them talking about the ET stuff. I said, look, guys, this isn't my fault. I'm not going to stop talking about it. We got in a fight. They started doing their karate kung fu moves on me. I had a big chain that I wrapped around the seat of my bike, and I hit one of them on the head, and I hope I didn't kill him, but I knocked him out. I felt a tickle on my back, and I hit the dirt. They actually tased me. By the time the police got there instantaneously, people were driving by as this was happening. One guy even tried to follow this black SUV, but they sped away. This is what I ended up with, a broken nose and a broken wrist from the experience. January 24th, 2005, startled awake by a high-pitched sound. Remember that weird orb we saw in our video, in that surveillance video? This time I saw it with my own eyes 3 feet from my head when I woke up, and I went, oh! I swore. I went, oh, crap. And the thing just darted out the room. I got my video camera, and I went looking for it. And it is... Can't see it very well. You'll see it come from the left bottom to the right upper very fast, and I slow it down, and then it comes back the opposite direction, kind of slow. See it? And I have no clue what I just saw. None whatsoever. Holy... I don't know what that thing was, but I saw it with my own eyes, and I go, whoa, crap, what is that? The hell was that? Well, I realized that I had surveillance surrounding the house. I looked at the surveillance video, and this is what the surveillance camera picked up. Now it goes in the house, comes out the side, out the wood, and weaves in and out of the, like it's the wood's fabric of some kind. It's the craziest thing, and it disappears, disrupts the camera, ends up in the top window, comes down through the wood of the side of the house, and it's just weird. February 19th, 2005, our van mysteriously broke down. We were coming back from Colorado Springs to Denver, about 80 miles. We stopped at a hamburger place. This white car drove by very slowly, and suddenly our car stopped. 2 hours later, we got it to a mechanic. He said, was your car hit by lightning? It's like, how could it be? It's a sunny day out. He said, it looks like all your electrical system was fried. This is important. Now, I'm not going to show you the video because there's going to be, in fact, I'm going to have them come up briefly talk about what they're doing with the documentary or with the feature film. but they're going to show this in the documentary. I'm showing you stills, but the video is quite amazing. My stepson had friends over, and they hacked into my computer. My computer was always being hacked into, and it was about 12 o'clock at night, I'd say, and I woke up because I heard a noise, and I'm, opening my eye, just sitting there, and I see this naked figure run into the kitchen. My stepson had friends over, sleeping over. I'm thinking, what in the world kind of dare is this? I was going to get my camera and blackmail him. You should see the video. It's quite astonishing. I was just about to shut off the video. I went upstairs to their bedroom. They were still asleep. They said, something woke us up. We don't know what it was, and they were still kind of half asleep, half awake. I was just about to shut off my camcorder, and I see this thing peering at me. It closes its eyes, ducks down a little bit, and slowly moves away. Here, I'll do it again so you can see it. Closes its eyes, ducks down, and slowly moves away. I went from the kitchen to the dining room, back to the kitchen, back to the dining room. When I go to the kitchen the last time, there are 5 flashes of lights on the windowsill. I woke up on the ground 45 minutes later, the same time my camera started up by itself. Only remember seeing flashes of lights. I had no idea that I just had an experience with a little guy. I had to look on the videotape to remember what happened, and I still kind of don't remember. My surveillance cameras didn't work. Couldn't figure out why. It's like, yes, we got one of them on camera. Well, I went to go check out these $500 a piece VCRs that were installed, and there was a burn mark in the top of the first one, in the bottom, into the next one, through the cupboard, out the side. We don't know how they did it, but we opened the VCR, and see that top left one? There's a little kind of blob. That's a ceramic diode. Ceramics usually blow up at about 1,000 degrees, something like that. This is melted. How in the world do they do that? March 11, 2005, we received a greeting card or an envelope with a warning from Colorado Springs somewhere. It says, in their daily lives, all are braver than they know. Good luck. I got to find my glasses wherever they are, or else I can't read this thing. It says, we have gone to great expense getting this to you. Maybe now you will believe that you must move. Do not release this to the public or contact anyone involved for your safety and ours. There's a government document with my name on it, top secret document. Department of Air Force Intelligence. Be advised, we expect Romanek to have a visitor soon. We will try our best not to miss it this time. Their closeness proximity is convenient to say the least. Also, HPM worked, van incapacitated. Mr. Romanek is smart and is stubborn and has a strong support system. It also seems that he is getting inside help. We will investigate. If Romanek stays at location, HPM can be used on residents and on parties involved if available. As you know, subject must be in range, and we will follow up as things unfold, but follow is spelled fallow. It's misspelled. Being dyslexic, I had no clue it was misspelled. But I thought this was a fake until I found out that HPM stands for high-powered microwave, and that's what they hit my van with. That's what they, remember my van died? Well, apparently they were using it on our residents too, and this is the result. And if I would have been smart, I would have got out of there, because every time this would happen, our feelings would heat up, but the speakers in our house, even if they weren't plugged in, would go off periodically. Okay, today is May 5th, 2005. We have problems with our speakers buzzing all the time, and I wanted to let you see and hear for yourself. This is our speaker. And the speakers are off, completely off. There's no light. Go to the other one. Can you see? I don't know what the hell's causing all the speakers to go off like this. All right, I'll go downstairs so you can hear the speakers downstairs. No matter where you went in the house, this had happened. Even though speakers that were complete. My stepdaughter had a ghetto blaster that was in the top of the closet unplugged, and it was doing it with that. And the higher you get in the house, the louder it got.
Okay, I'm
and I'll go up to the upstairs bedroom, and I want you to get a pattern of this thing.
Let's get this before the power goes out, because the power usually goes out. All right. This is, you can already hear it. It's really loud.
They were hitting our house with high-powered microwaves. Bastards. May 9th, 2005, that orb returned. This guy, honestly, I think it's some kind of surveillance. I caught it playing in our crabapple tree.
I was just talking to Nancy. Where'd it go? There it is. I got it.
Might have to turn this up a little
That's the same freaking orb. I gotta go over here and see if I can get it better. Where'd it go? Oh my God. There's a fox out there too. That is the craziest freaking thing.
Just sitting
That's
there.
the same damn orb.
Obviously, it wasn't afraid
over
of
my
this
head
thing.
when I was
Maybe it wasn't a
sleeping.
fox. Maybe it was
I just
something in
finished
disguise.
talking to
I don't
Nancy.
know.
It's about 12:30, May 8th. Well, it'd be May 9th, 2005, I guess. That is the craziest thing. There it is. There it is. I'm gonna zoom in.
Don't know what it is, but it's around a lot. You know, I have all this stuff analyzed by, some of the top people there is.
I did the video analysis on a frame-by-frame basis of the Stan Romanek footage, and I see absolutely no evidence of post-production effects applied to the footage. So that means that all of it was shot in camera. Now, if that's the case, it would take an awful lot of expense to pull off this elaborate set of shots. And if it's not a fake, it's undoubtedly the most important footage I've ever seen.
July 14th, 2005, more unexplained things started happening. Our house became haunted like you can't believe. One of the people involved in my case got some ghost hunters to come to our house. How many people here don't know what an EVP is? Raise your hand. Okay, for those of you that don't know what an EVP is, it stands for Electronic Voice Phenomena. If you're a ghost hunter, you will have a digital recorder with you. They will ask questions to midair, and sometimes they get answers that they can't hear on these little recorders. Well, we had this little tape recorder in the middle of our kitchen table, and didn't think anything of it till later. The researchers, we were listening to this this tape recorder, and we picked up this weird sound coming off this tape recorder, an EVP. My wife screamed and goes, "Oh my God, we have demons!" Well, the researcher says it looks like it's, because a lot of times what will happen is it'll either be slowed down, sped up, or compressed, and they have to work with it to kind of get it cleaned up. This is what it actually said. They sped it up.
Starseed, it's time.
Remember that Audrey phone call? How in the world did she get it on this thing that was in the middle of the table? August 1st, 2005, we got tired of the harassment in Colorado Springs, so we moved. We should have listened to Audrey in the first place. August 17th, 2005, wrote more equations in my sleep. They get more complex, more complex. September 27th, 2005, heard a noise out in the backyard. This happened all the time. We'd have all kinds of stuff happen. Our lawn furniture would disappear. We'd go outside, couldn't find it, And we were just out there 10 minutes ago, it was fine. And all of a sudden we go out there again and our lawn furniture is gone. It's out in the yard. Well, this was one of those cases. There's Lisa in her bathrobe. She's drinking coffee, smoking outside. She doesn't smoke inside. I took some pictures, and there's this debate about orbs. I personally, some of them I think are really something. A lot of them are just dust speck. The only trouble is, a lot of the orbs we get have faces in them, and this is not matrixing. And this happens over and over again. So there's something to it. The only thing is there's something else we got a picture of. I'll let you look for a little bit, see if you can spot the thing. Okay, there you go. There's another one. I'll let you see if you can spot it this time. Do you see them? Let me see if I can get this thing working. Right, is this on? Yeah, right there. October 5th, 2005, heard a noise outside again. Lawn furniture was missing. Couldn't find it anywhere. The little son of a gun put it on our roof. We had to leave it on our roof. We had no ladder to get up there. The neighbors would walk by and goes, what in the world is your chair? We had to say some kids played this prank. We had no other way to explain it. November 21st, 2005, we invited some friends over for Thanksgiving. One of the researchers involved in my case is ex-Naval Intelligence. He was not a congressman, but he did something in politics. I don't know, but really good researcher. And I told him, I said, let me go back because I don't want to start it yet. We had a computer in our room. Yeah, bizarre, huh? February 22nd, 2010, this is just recently, I got a call from the son of a general. This general, I promised him I wouldn't mention his name, but this general was in charge of Minot, North Dakota when my dad was stationed there. He wanted to tell me about some other stuff that happened in the 60s. He wanted to tell me that they had an incident where they tracked a UFO in 1966 down to one of the missile silos, and it kind of flew over some B-52s. Now, these are supposed documents I just got sent by this general. He's really ill. His son told me that he's not doing well, and he wanted to get this information out that he's been holding on to for quite some time. So you guys are the first to see it. I wished I had time to let you guys read it, but I don't. I'm just showing you that I have it. This is one of the witness reports. The MPs actually took a picture. This picture is first time ever seen by the public. And there's the picture of the UFO over Minot Air Force Base in 1967. So 66, 67, 68, they had all this UFO stuff. And this is about when I had my first experience. And this is pretty important because this gets weird. This woman came up to me when I was 5 years old. I was playing with my pedal car. It was a summer day. And I remember she was very strange looking. Even as a 5-year-old child, I thought she was very pretty. Except her eyes were different, very slanted, almond-shaped, baby blue eyes. In fact, they weren't even baby blue, they were almost day-glow blue. And I remember she patted me on the head and told me that I was special and I had something to do when I got older. She opened her hand. When she opened her hand, I remember she had 3 fingers. The marble started to glow. It was a glowing marble. And to me, it looked like a glowing version of the Earth. And it started levitating about a 1/4 inch off her hand. Well, this, I talked to Paula Harris. Paula Harris is a good friend of ours, and she was talking to me about Maurizio Cavallo in Italy. Took some Polaroids of somebody he calls the Clarion people. Well, this reminded me of this strange woman that I saw. I mean, it looks almost exactly, except, she wasn't blurry when I saw her. But the same kind of weird eyes, the skinny features. And this is what I remember. This same woman followed me throughout my childhood. We moved from North Dakota. I was born in Denver, moved to North Dakota when I was really young, then moved back to Denver. And in between there, my dad was stationed for a little while in Cheyenne, and she was there the whole time. The last time I saw her, I was up at a playground. I was about 10 years old, waiting for the swimming pool to open at the local park. She came up to me, and she started talking, and I was swinging on the swings, not paying attention. And I looked up, and she said, "You're one of us. We're you." And I looked at her. Why would this, being 10 years old, that's really unusual. But what got me was the fact that her mouth was not moving when she told me this. Now, as a kid, you kind of don't put two and two together. You kind of blow it off. Until December of 2000, I had my first real sighting. I didn't believe in this stuff. I thought anybody that believed in this stuff was crazy. I wanted them to stay away from me. But I met somebody online. She lived in Nebraska. I lived in Colorado. And, I wanted her to come visit me. We became really good friends. We were kind of dating this long-distance relationship. And I'm thinking, what's the best way to do that? Well, I decided to go up to what is known as Red Rocks Amphitheater, a very well-known spot up in the foothills of Colorado. Beautiful. They have concerts there. And I was going to videotape the surrounding area. This was about December 27th. Beautiful winter day, snow on the ground, perfect setting. And I was going to mail this videotape to her, and I was going to, send her some flowers or something. I never made it to Red Rocks. On the side of the road, there were about 30 cars pulled off to the side of the road. And if you look, you can see the power lines. Behind the power lines, you see what's known as Dinosaur Ridge, and behind that is Red Rocks. Above the power lines, I'd say probably a good anywhere from 60 to 200 feet. Kind of hard to judge distance when you're afraid. There was an object, and when I saw this object, all these people were looking south, and I looked to see what they were looking at, and this object was hovering above the power lines. I'm thinking, man, that is the weirdest hot air balloon I had ever seen in my life. Well, it turned out not to be a hot air balloon at all. It turned out to be a UFO. In fact, when I got close to it with my van, it started pacing my van.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. All right, our next presenter is Stan Romanek. All right, that name might ring a bell with everybody because Stan's case is really a big one. And we took a real in-depth look at it all the way back in, I think, 2004. And it's as valid today as the day it was done. 4 full hours on his case with Stan and Deborah Lindemann and Dr. Jack Kasher and Dana Tebow. Major presentation. Why? Because it's a major case. It has everything. It has photo evidence, video evidence, witnesses. And here's the thing. Rock solidly established, I think, 2004. But guys, there's been stuff happening all the way from 2004 until this very day. Get ready for a ride. Please welcome Stan Romanek.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming here. Let me share my story. Those of you in the intelligence community, I hope you're having a good time. Those of you that are off-world visitors, thank you so much for visiting us, and I hope you're having a wonderful time also. I've got a lot to go through, so I'm going to get started because we have little time. I can literally do probably a week presentation if I wanted to. I want to start out, first of all, by putting things into perspective. There's something I'm sure some of you didn't know. First of all, our solar system resides in the Milky Way. That's what we think, right? Our sun is one of about 200 billion suns in the Milky Way. We're located on the outer edge of the outer reaches of a spiral arm called the Orion Arm. Two-thirds the way from the galactic center, or so we thought. Scientists have now determined that the Milky Way is actually not our parent galaxy, and there's a reason I'm telling you this. We're from another galaxy called a Sagittarian dwarf galaxy. The Milky Way actually swallowed it up, and people wanted to know, there was this big debate why the Milky Way looks kind of crooked, and now they're thinking this is why. A little schematic here of where the Sagittarian is and where the Milky Way is and where we are. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because it was speculated that there are about 200 billion stars in our galaxy. They now believe that there are over 400 billion stars with the combined galaxies. NASA researchers that I've talked to are saying that there are over 300 billion galaxies in the universe that they can detect with the Hubble Space Telescope. Honestly, to think we're the only ones would be absolutely the most ludicrous thing in the world. That being said, let's get started. June 6, 1968, my father served in the Air Force. This is probably when my experiences started. To be honest with you, I was 5 years old at the time. My dad was stationed in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And he worked between Grand Forks and Minot, North Dakota. He worked at the missile silos. Well, in 1968, they had an incident where a UFO dropped down on one of the missile silos and actually armed one of the missiles. Now, this is public record. You can get this information on the internet. You can find out about this yourself. But what they didn't tell you is they tracked the UFO to a small town called Northwood, North Dakota, where it hovered over the water tower there in our small town. Now, my brother remembers seeing my dad with a small detail surround this water tower, and the UFO eventually went away. This is supposed to be an actual photograph of that particular UFO. I don't know. This was sent to me. I don't know if this is real or not, but it's supposed to be. And I remember after that incident, we started getting bottled water. And I remembered, even though I was scared, I got a little brave because, there were people around. I was going to try to outrun it, but, good luck there. I pulled off to the side of the road, and I got my camcorder out, and I started videotaping this object. Well, the object reorientated itself and literally shot to about 1,000 foot. In a blink of an eye. Now, growing up in the Air Force, I remember as a child the jet fighters would fly over us early morning and they'd create these sonic booms everywhere. Well, that's what this object did. It made no sound until it popped away and it made this sonic explosion that I could feel in my shirt. There were a bunch of people there. We all watched this object. It morphed, it changed shape, it did all these weird, bizarre things and eventually corkscrewed away. I remember standing there with one of the guys, and about 10 minutes later, two F-16s flew the same direction as this object corkscrewed away to. This is what I thought I saw. I remember, as I got close to this object, looking in between these spheres, and these spheres were rotating counterclockwise under this bigger object, was the blackest black I'd ever seen in my life. In fact, even today, I've never seen anything that black. It looked like if I got close, I could have thrown a rock into infinity. Now, even more amazing is, the local news did a report. Hopefully you can hear the sound.
A UFO sighting near Red Rocks Sunday right after the
sound.
X-Files on Fox 31 News. A Lakewood man seeing something unusual in the sky, grabs his video camera.
I noticed something kind of just right above the power lines.
a UFO, an expert says.
This is nothing like any other UFO video I've seen.
Judge for yourself, Sunday on Fox 31 News at 9 o'clock.
I became the UFO guy. I mean, I got to know these people personally because I started having so many experiences. Shortly after the news report aired, I was contacted by someone that was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. Well, I didn't know this, but somebody at Nellis had tracked this same object It was over one of the test ranges. And it's the same object that was hovering above the power lines. And they have these cameras that are ground-based, and they follow the flight of these, fighter planes as they're doing dogfights to, track what they're doing. Well, this UFO came into their airspace, and they